So after many months of waiting, we have finally had the NHS contract, and that of course got awarded to Palantir, which is super exciting for the whole community, and it means so much more than just the monetary value. But now we've had that, we need to look to the future and think about what's next for Palantir. So let's talk about the next 6 or so catalysts that are aligned for Palantir. These are not going to necessarily be in any particular order, but let's just start with the one that comes to the top of my head first, and that is the S&P 500 inclusion. Now, of course, we know that Palantir are officially eligible to be included in the S&P 500. It's just a matter of when now. I've heard a few different things going around about how the S&P 500 is rebalanced at different time periods throughout the year, and perhaps we can expect them to actually be officially included in December. That is one date that I've heard of. It will happen. They are now eligible, it's just a matter of when. Now, this may actually happen in 2024. We're just going to have to wait and see. But either way, it's a very important milestone for any company to reach. The inclusion in such a prominent and well-known index is sort of a badge of honor, a stamp of recognition for Palantir, and it means that they will have greater visibility. If they are more visible to more potential institution and retail investors, that of course messes with the whole demand versus supply of the stock. More money flowing in, pushing the stock price up. And of course, it also could mean that there's actually more stability in Palantir's stock price moving forward after the inclusion. We know, as Palantir investors, that it is a bit of a volatile stock. It's a very early growth stock. We do expect that volatility. Maybe that will settle once it's included in the S&P 500. The most important thing about it being included is the institutional ownership will go up. Institutions, so what I mean by that is the likes of Vanguard, BlackRock, Legal & General, these big organizations, hedge funds, pension funds, insurance companies, all of these institutional owners will be purchasing shares of Palantir for their own funds. This means institutional ownership and money comes flowing in. Again, bumping up the stock price. And we are already seeing institutional ownership increase. I'll leave a link to a video up here that I made recently about which companies are actually buying Palantir right now, but they're already doing this ahead of the actual inclusion. They're preparing themselves because they know it's coming and they know they will need a bit of that pie. Also, if you look back at any sort of growth stock that has been included in the S&P 500 in the last 5 or so years, and you have a look at the effect of that on the stock price, I'm thinking about Tesla specifically here, it can be quite a bullish thing to happen to a company. This next catalyst is not a matter of when or if, it's going to happen and we know when. And that is the Q4 earnings. I believe they are expected to be announced in February 2024. Now, of course, there are many things to talk about with earnings, but just at a very top line overview level, I want to see them beat guidance. I want to see them smash it out the park again, just like they did in Q3. More importantly than just the guidance and the numbers, I want to see the AIP growth. I'm really eager to just get more and more information as time goes on about their artificial intelligence platform. We know the demand is already there, and we know they're putting the things in place to actually make sure they scale that and they sell that to potential clients. That is what they're doing right now with the AIP bootcamps and their go-to-market strategy. Currently, AIP is not monetized either. We could go down that rabbit hole. I'm going to be doing that in a very upcoming video, so watch out for that. But yeah, I would quite like to see how the AIP demand is growing, how that's transferring into new clients. I want to see maybe some more on the monetization side of it. I don't know if we'll get that information, but it would be very nice to know when they're expecting to monetize it and what their monetization model and strategy is going to be. Maybe some more information about the boot camps. We know that in November they're doing more boot camps than they did pilots in the whole of 2022. So it is scaling and it is growing. And that is a fantastic initiative and I think a fantastic strategy for actually selling and getting more people, lowering that barrier to entry so that more clients can come, they can come to these boot camps, get hands on keyboards and walk away with an idea of how AIP can actually work in their business with their data. They then go and tell their people in charge, their CEOs, of how much they need Palantir's AIP, and then they become a potential client, and then once monetization switched on, the numbers come in and the figures get very interesting. But it would be quite nice to see that AIP bootcamp accelerate even further than it already is. And then, of course, we've just got the general client growth that I want to see in the Q4 earnings. I'm eager to see this both from a commercial and government point of view. Now, what I'm thinking is currently happening generally is that we are seeing widespread AI adoption. AI and ML adoption, machine learning and artificial intelligence. Businesses, whether these are commercial businesses, whether these are governmental organizations, they are all awakening to how important it is to jump on this AI revolution that we're seeing. It's here, it's happening, it's real, it's not going anywhere. And those who are able to actually put themselves in a position of being uncomfortable, not knowing enough, and actually learning how they can integrate AI into their businesses are those that are going to have the competitive edge. Those are going to be the businesses that up their productivity from whatever percentage to 90 whatever percent, and they're getting more out of each of their employees. They are making decisions better, utilizing the data that they have, bringing all that data together. And actually, Palantir is positioned perfectly to do this. So as long as that widespread AI adoption is happening, which it absolutely is, which companies are going to benefit from that? I think one of the big ones here is, of course, Palantir. And then lastly, one more thing that I want to see from the Q4 earnings is even more information about FedStart. FedStart, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated parts of Palantir. It's a program that Palantir offer that basically helps organizations that want to get their software solutions into the US government. To do that, it's very expensive, very difficult, and very time consuming. Palantir have a program because they're already accredited, one of only 3 companies in the entire world with IL6 clearance. They have a program that help these businesses, and it's doing well. They are growing their customer base. So I want to see how that is developing as time goes on. Are they getting even more clients? Are they upselling different products through that? I don't know if we'll get all that information, but it's clear, it was clear from the Q3 earnings that actually they are taking this really seriously. They put 2 whole slides in their presentation deck just on FedStart, which I think is a sign that it's growing. They know in the back end that this is getting serious. I don't think it's ever necessarily going to become as big as AIP or anything like that, but it's very, very interesting, and it is an area that I do want to hear about more. And then we've got Project Titan. Titan standing for Tactical Intelligence Targeting Access Node. Quite a mouthful there. But we are expecting the final contract announcement to come in Q4 2023. So it should be happening anytime between now and the end of the year, providing that happens on time. Of course, with any government contracts, we know, as with the NHS, it can be delayed. So maybe expect that. But yeah, we are expecting it to happen very, very soon. I could make an entire video on just Project Titan and Palantir's involvement in this, but at a very high level, the US Army want to modernize the way they operate on the battlefield. They want to be able to integrate and analyze pieces of data, pieces of information from various sensors and various sources. They want to do that to be able to enhance their situational awareness and decision-making abilities on the battlefield. There's been many stages to this, like I said, but they've spent $72 million on 2 contracts. So they have given $36 million to Palantir, and then they've given $36 million to Raytheon to allow them to each separately build out a prototype. They will then use this prototype and all the information they have to decide who gets to be the final supplier. And like I said, that is expected at the end of this year. So they are going through the assessments and testing right now of the prototypes and all the information they have to decide which vendor they actually want to go with. Will that be Palantir or will it not? But importantly, something to note here is that the people in charge have made it very clear that it could take the form of one vendor moving forward, both vendors even moving forward, or some combination of the 2. They've said it just depends. That's the beauty of it. We can pick and choose the best of both. We can move forward, or we can have them both move forward based on the available resource and to continue to prototype. So I think this points out that, it would be very nice for Palantir to be awarded this entire contract. Of course it would. We would love that as a Palantir community. But I think we should more expect it to be that Palantir actually get some of this contract and they work alongside Raytheon and actually have a joint partnership in this. But even if that does happen, this is still a massive, massive success for Palantir, whether they get this contract in joint partnership or they get it in their entirety. If you think about this, the army have already spent $72 million on just the prototypes. So how much money is going to flood into this over the next however many years? I've read that it's going to be about $1.5 billion over the next 5 years or so. So it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal in terms of status, responsibility, and money. And also, when this procurement started, Palantir hadn't yet released AIP. It didn't exist back then, but obviously now it does. So I imagine Palantir will very much be looking at how they can integrate AIP into this and actually seeking ways to utilize large language models on the battlefield, which could give them the competitive edge. But a massive, massive catalyst coming up that is often forgotten about just because it's been going on for a very long time. The next one is the $1 billion buyback scheme. This was announced, I believe, in the Q2 earnings, and essentially there's no deadline on this. There's no real restrictions as to when this needs to happen, if it needs to happen, how much of it needs to happen. It's really quite flexible. This one's quite a controversial one. A lot of people have different opinions on whether or not buyback schemes are a good thing for a company or actually they're really not a great thing for a company. But either way, like I said, there's no deadline on this. So we don't know as to when this catalyst would even be used or when it would be actually implemented. We're just going to have to wait and see on that one. And then I thought of one that we definitely don't have a date for, and we don't know if it will even happen. But I was thinking that we might start to see new initiatives and different products announced by Palantir, just like we've had with the AIP bootcamps. That was an initiative of Palantir's that I wouldn't have predicted necessarily, but I'm very, very glad it happened. So we could see more of them moving forward, different ways that they decide to actually, have a go-to-market strategy, maybe even new products like we've seen with AIP or different enhancements of the products that they've already got. Obviously, like I said, there's no knowing if and when this would happen, but I think it's definitely a possibility for a company like Palantir who are growing rapidly. They're reinvesting into themselves. They are developing. They've got some of the best talent out there. And I imagine more and more talent is now wanting to join this company as it gets bigger and bigger. So it's an exciting time to be a Palantir holder, a Palantir investor and holding this stock. Very early stages. And, they will release new products and have new initiatives. It's just a matter of when that would be. We don't know. The last catalyst that I am expecting us to sort of see over the next however long, short term, mid-term, is the expansion into healthcare, particularly now we've got the NHS contract, into the healthcare industry in the rest of Europe. I think that this NHS deal was such a big thing to happen to Palantir in order to allow them to actually have that trust, and now they will utilize that and integrate themselves into other private and public healthcare organizations in Europe. And I don't think it will just be in the UK and Europe. I think it will be globally, but I do think their global expansion is really, really important. Let's carry on conquering the US for sure. The market there is incredible, but let's also look outside of the US and start diversifying our client base globally. And I think that is really going to start happening. It already is, but I think we're going to grow on that now. Every single week, I release a portfolio update. On top of that, I announce every single time I buy or sell any position in my portfolio, and I talk on a Discord server about Palantir, other stocks, invest in general, all the latest news every single day. If you want to get access to all of that, then consider joining the Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description below. It would be great to see some more of you guys over there soon. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your top catalysts for Palantir in the comments below, and I'll see you in another video very shortly.